guys will also wait for like 1 minute so you can settle, light the candles, burn up the mood, and everything. We will wait, just wander around and feel very bad that we do not have the drum sets and Arthur has come and we do not have a ukulele anymore. But in just a minute. Okay, good. I think we will get started because I see that most of you settled and at least look very comfortable. So as you all see, we're gonna talk about beyond Scrum Master. So the journey began for our Bavarian startup Code B, for us at least, 3 years ago. And it was, as you can see, a very small beehive over there. It was kind of a side job for us. And now it's a big, full-blown company with lots of employees all over the world. And I don't want to boast, but I will. We just got 60 million investments in January, and we're going to get even bigger. And I really hope that, okay, I will not stop boasting, sorry, but the clients like Audi, Knauf, Siemens will get even more like that, and we will really change the market of procurement. And what we're going to talk about now is this very breaking point when we settled the ground, when we set the fire of scaling, of culture, of the processes, of the practices, how we work and how we pave, you know, this way to success, so that we just set the fire, but the team actually maintains it, so that our clients have these marshmallows, you know, burned at fire all the time. Yeah?
Yeah, so and I think it's quite an interesting story because you can really see how, or we experience how it is to grow a team. When Julia started, I think you were 5 people or so. When I came, we were 10, and now it's something around 130, and that was 2.5, 3 years ago. But let me first introduce Julia. So Julia has quite an extensive experience in different areas. She started in sales and marketing, but then moved quite quickly to the Scrum roles, Scrum Master, Agile Coach. She has experience in teaching English and Ukrainian. She's a really, really great coach, not only for the team, also for me as a product owner, as someone who was moving from data science to product ownership. Yeah, she was always very, very helpful. She really loves sports and traveling and is a very nice and kind person.
Thanks, Alex. Now he set the expectation, so I should tell even better, you know, about Alex. Although it's not a big deal for me because not only is he a good friend for me, but a very, very cool colleague to work with. He was really sophisticated product owner, and even when he was mastering his data science skills, he was already the person who could interpret and grasp the business value in the best way, you know. He's kind of a person who's doing yoga. Yeah, you couldn't tell, but he can do some really cool stuff. You can ask at the coffee breaks. Alex can tell a lot about why euro will fall in nearest time because he has
a different story.
Economics background.
We could spend a half a day here.
Yeah, maybe as a next talk. And if you read the news on Monday that Kyiv is run out of Hachapuris, you know who to blame. It's gonna be him.
Thanks a lot.
And what is more interesting is that Alex is starting his new business. Time to support Alex. Woohoo! Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we can go to the actual story, and the story begins with just a small beehive, like I just explained. We were a very small startup, but yeah, we had the clear vision to become a bee empire. You will see a lot of bee analogies. I think with a company named ScoutBee, that's quite quite logical. But we want to start where everything began in our story. So some details. Located in northern Bavaria, not exactly like Silicon Valley. We had to have a clear focus on procurement. So if you don't know what procurement is, these are usually 40 to 50-year-old men looking for machine parts or other parts somewhere in the world to buy for the production. This is a very old-fashioned business, and we started out to basically bring that business to the 21st century. Our story takes place in a time where we just collected 4 million euro seed funding. We had 25 employees. We had 2 development teams, and those teams were fully distributed. So we had a lot of people here in Ukraine, like Julia. We had people in Germany. We had people in Amsterdam, in Berlin, in Azerbaijan, in Russia. So it was very, very distributed. Everything you saw in the presentation before, the nice wall boards, we didn't have any of that. Everything was happening online in Jira, via Zoom, via Slack, and so on. And the team was very motivated. We really picked the people who had the spirit, but on the other hand, we definitely were lacking some experience. So we had quite a few juniors, not that many seniors, and very hard problems to solve. But still, we all were living the Scrum values, we were living the Agile values, and it was definitely really cool working with the guys.
Yeah, that's no doubts at all.
And we had 3 products, maybe also quite important for the context. We built a smart supplier search engine where we were crawling the whole web, analyzing it to find the right suppliers for a specific part. And on top of that, we had a platform for those suppliers to negotiate with the purchasers. And we also had a supplier master data management platform we were just launching.
Okay, so we had to scale and we had to overcome a lot of challenges, apparently, as the slide says. So first of all, we were not original here. We had the time pressure and workload. Our company was at this stage when you really have to deliver a lot. But on the other hand, we didn't have a very understanding customers because these 50-year-old guys who were using Excel and Google to find some suppliers in Chinese, and sometimes it took like 3 years or so. It was really difficult. And the next one, conservative industry.
Yeah.
And increasing complexity, right?
Yeah, with the company growing, with the products growing, and all those new structures forming in quite a short time, complexity was increasing incredibly fast. And still, we had to maintain the product plan. And as soon as you go down this venture capital road, you don't have so much time to say, okay, let's do it a little bit more slowly. Yeah. You have to go full power.
Unpredictability of data science. We have here Vitalik sitting somewhere there. So you juggle with the data science models, trying to find the solution. Sometimes you have different ways of achieving the business value, and you never know what's going to work. Yeah, so as soon as you have some predicted tasks, yes, sure, but we didn't have any. So it was quite a challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, even normal software development is not really predictable. That's why you have forecasts and no commitments. But data science is just even more unpredictable. You can do some work, but you don't know what the actual outcome is. And that's, some people say it's not possible to work in Scrum or work agile with data science. I don't think so. I think it definitely works, but it definitely also requires much more customization.
Yep, I won't stay here for a long time. Of course, we had a lack of people, and the fact that we had a distributed team was often not helping. Yeah, because when you do not know the people you're working with, it builds up the borders, and it's not so easy to destroy them with zero budget for travel, at the beginning at least.
So, yeah, let's, you saw the challenges, but let's introduce our vision, the vision we had in our head. And we, of course, had some alignment with the company management and so on. And we were basically driven by our core values. We had it quite explicitly in the management team. And I think that's also what the team had in mind. So it was very clear for us that we wanted to have a very self-organized and agile team. But at the same time, we also needed the structure and the responsibility, because we had very demanding customers, and there's a lot of money involved in these projects. So it needs to be reliable, and the data security also needs to be ensured. And the third point is we needed to be scalable and flexible, because we had to move so quickly, and knew that we are going to grow quite quickly in the future.
Yeah, now finally we go to the, I think, heavy metal, most interesting part. So, of course, we're telling about the vision and everything, but now we can tell that we had this vision. But of course, it was iteratively developed. So basically, after we started with this two kind of siloed teams, we had to scale out. And we had to develop into 3 teams, as you see here. And we didn't draw the wild beehives just by accident. The problem was that we had to boost cross-functionality because we got some new products starting. And as you see here, maybe not very vividly, but we drew the bees with different colors. So there were full stacks with Python and React. There were some data scientists. There were some data engineers. And they were all distributed in the teams, and they had to collaborate a lot with each other. We had to have this horizontal knowledge share. We also had 2 product owners. We had a Scrum Master, a younger one, and Agile coach. And we differentiated between the Scrum Master and Agile coach because we wanted to show that our team moved out to the next step of agility, of maturity, because they took away lots of stuff that the normal Scrum Master does. And also you can see here that we had some traveler bees, so the ones that were always changing the beehives. Some people like layout and DevOps, according to Les, they're called undone departments because they didn't quite belong to any of those. They had to work a lot, just running from beehive and back. And we also had some scouts, so people that are based in one team, but then they were going out to other teams, checking how they're working and helping in their everyday work. So let's carry on.
But of course, reality usually looks a little bit different. So if you don't get what you see here, that's not a surprise. It's quite close to the vision, but of course much more chaotic. So in the end, you had some people that were 50% on the one team, then maybe 20% on the other team, and 30% on the next team. Sometimes you had to coordinate things quite short term, just because it's not. If you have such a complex product from technology perspective, you just have sometimes people that are needed in several teams because it's not. These are skills that are not you can find everywhere. So in the end, it was, let's say, a little bit managed chaos, but the team in the end managed to do it because they were quite had quite a good team spirit and quite a good communication. So how did we achieve it in the end? of course, we didn't achieve the exact vision, but I think in the end it worked quite nicely. And what were the elements of our organizational change process to get there? So we started with an architecture sprint. So we had the new product, we had the new technology and the new team, and that's what we just saw before. We had a meeting where everyone was taking part in, and we discussed it. We discussed the product, we discussed the technological challenges, and we discussed how the team will work together.
What was really important with the architecture sprint is that first it was about getting the requirements, and we moved the responsibility to the team. So they had to pull the requirements to understand what kind of architecture they need to have. And then they had quite a hard time trying out different approaches while still communicating with the stakeholders to come up with the plan, incremental plan, how they will deliver this new product that was supposed to get people out of their comfort zone and collaborate with other teams.
Yeah, but it's not only organizational. It's also technology must also enable the team to do it. And that's why we had to make a plan for decoupled releases. We had to decouple the technology and also the whole management, the release cycles, and so on.
Yeah, it was also very important because very often we're talking, okay, processes, we have to coach our team, everyone should grow, but as soon as you don't have the techs that can solve this kind of problem, of course, you're not gonna go too far and the motivation of your team will be pretty down. Another example of such events we did was last events game. We had the opportunity to get live gatherings only once per quarter. And when we were doing that, we were not doing any presentations, demos, this kind of stuff. So even when we wanted to share the best practices of LeSS, we had like teeny tiny part of theory, but after that they tried out. So there was a workshop when they had to come up with some logo drawings, team names and everything, and they emulated the LeSS process within 1 hour. And this was really helping because they didn't just learn about it, but they really tried it out, you know. And then when they faced the working problems, they already, we did it that way because this and this works better. Yeah, so they owned their process.
And actually one of my personal favorites was the roles retrospective. And that was, we did it when, in the middle of the whole change process, and we asked the team how they see the roles, not only their own roles, but also the roles of the management. And we made an open discussion and talked about what responsibilities and rights should the management have. So product owner, Scrum Master, and what rights should the team have. And at the first moment, this might be a little bit awkward because you usually don't talk about such stuff. But it, quickly turned into something really cool because the team actively thought, okay, what do we not want to do? What do we want the management to decide? And sometimes it was even hard to push against the team and say, you guys, you need to organize yourself. You need to decide that because me as a product owner, I can't make this decision.
What was really funny is when, not funny, I would say, what was working really good is that you get out of the team the feedback and then you choose the solution and you come with this solution, like with chapters, for example, that was solving the problems of the team. And then you were really having a buy-in. And I think that the biggest difference is that in our case, we were not just getting the feedback, but we were working very hard on it. And that was the breaking point when we were deciding what we were going to do next.
Yeah, and especially also telling from management side, hey, that's what I think. didn't work well, I did a poor job on this particular part of my responsibility. That also was the foundation for the trust of the team to say, okay, maybe some stuff we are doing is also not perfect. So it's perfectly fine to be vulnerable at this point.
And chapter introduction knowledge share. Sounds pretty long.
Yeah, we can make it short. So basically, not only do knowledge share on technological level, but also on the organizational level. So we had one pilot chapter. They developed quite a lot of good practices, and then we had the team share it to the other team.
Yeah, so that was really cool when you have one team adopt it and live in lots of pains of this innovation, but then when the next team does it, they can already use the patterns of the first team. So it were not me or Alex coming, oh, you know, that team, they excelled in this and this. No, it didn't work like that. We had 2 guys from the working chapter, and they came to another guys and they were saying, okay, so we used it for this and this purposes. In this case it worked, in this case it didn't. And they were, oh, maybe it will solve this kind of problems we have. And that was really empowering. Yeah, that is also my slide. It appears. So. Drive the enthusiasm from all the levels. So what is important in this case is that, first of all, you get the inspiration with the education. So it doesn't mean that you let your team experiment all the time, because they're going to be kind of lost, with the practices that they had. So you need to share what kind of best practices exist there. And then you give the opportunity to practice those. So you make these small experiments, and they are inspired by the best practices, but which ones do we take and in what order? That is by the team to choose. And then you use some innovation, which is called retrospection. Never heard of that one. You reflect, you implement the feedback, and of course, you always leave the place for innovation, some creativity, something that was never done before. And that also sets the fire and makes it bigger, more powerful, sweeter marshmallows. And
in the end, what I think was the most important thing to do, especially with this distributed setup, with these fully distributed teams, are the face-to-face meetings. Even though it's expensive, even though we had to move either all the people from Germany and Netherlands and wherever to Kiev, or the people from Kiev to Germany, once we all met with the whole company in Sicily. This was really, you could really feel the change from before that meeting to after that meeting. Especially the weeks here in Kiev were super cool, and you could really see how the team that was previously, some people were not even comfortable with switching on their cameras. So the guys have maybe seen each other 1 or 2 times from really having a team where they could just write each other a short message and solve a problem. And what we did were workshops, especially when we started a new product or a new big feature. When we had organizational topics or other stuff, we did shorter or longer workshops. We did hackathons, which were of course a lot of fun. The results are not always super tangible and not always ready to use in production right now, but still what we took out of that was a lot of learning and really the team growing together a lot. And then also regular knowledge share sessions online as well as offline, where just people prepared a topic and showed it to the others. But most importantly, we had a lot of fun, and that's I really like the saying that building a team, building a culture is not really like architecture or engineering. It's rather like gardening. You don't see the results immediately, but when you do a lot of investments, you will really get a very, very big return.
And fun is especially important for distributed teams, because as soon as you have had some fun together, you're more efficient fixing bugs together or working on features together. One of the most important parts for us was onboarding and adaptation. We had to digest a lot of people. Yeah, you saw at the first pictures there were 3 thin bees trying to deliver some honey. Yeah, but in the long run, we had like 40 people in the department, and most of them, they were new. Yeah, so we had not only to establish our culture, we had to make it work, and we had to share the knowledge. So one of the most efficient ways, adaptation plan. So you have the onboarding, but after that, you do have the special plan. We did it for 3 months. Maybe for you it will work for other timeline. So we get the newbie. It's a newcomer at Scout B, a newbie. We got a product owner, Scrum Master, and 1 person from the team. And they were brainstorming what kind of plan you have, what do you need to learn, how you will connect it to your everyday work, with whom you will do that. And we were reflecting every month, working on that. We were updating it. It was our kind of a backlog. And
yeah, so we had different topics in this adaptation plan. One part was the culture. So it was very important for newcomers to learn what is our culture and to get an introduction here.
And when we were working on our culture, we were not just telling, like you send a file, this is our culture. Work with it, yeah. Always works, right? When the management sends it. You are collaborative, you trust each other, and everyone starts trusting each other, right? Of course, it doesn't work this way. So what we did, we didn't just tell that we trust, we showed that we trust, we pointed it out, and we were given the tasks to people so they can experience this trust. Yeah, so for example, trust with the mistakes. There is some new task, you never did it before, you're gonna screw it up, but you trust your colleague that you're gonna do that. And when you connect this with fun, yes, Arthur just said, fun works very good for people, right? Because it helps to memorize it better, it helps to order it in your head. For example, when we started with the OKRs, sometimes newcomers were better than people who had the first stage of OKRs because they could brainstorm on James Bond OKRs first, and they got the format of that, and they got some fun, and they got some nice associations about the OKRs.
And one example is we had 1 task for each newcomer to send an embarrassing GIF in the Slack channel, in the public Slack channel. So yeah, they could already go into
It was so embarrassing. Sending a Second World War GIF to German team. Sometimes it was really embarrassing.
So I see we have not so much time anymore, so I would say we go a little bit quicker through those.
Let's speed up.
Of course, we had tasks for the technological adaptation, what technologies had to be learned, for example. We also included the whole team. So like Julia said, it was not only the manager. It was also a team member who was the buddy, but then also for different tasks, we had different team members assigned to this newcomer. We also introduced our own organizational model and what we changed compared to the book examples, and also introduced leading as a habit. So even the newcomer, even the junior engineer got a task, got a topic he or she should get into, and then explain it to the other people. So they would immediately be a specialist in a certain field and would that way be prepared for taking leadership later.
It was very hard to be a newbie. You get a task, nobody knows how to do that. Of course, not your first task, but a little bit later. No one knows how to do that. You get into it and you drive it. So there were people who created a new community, PyShare, people who were just learning Python at the 3rd week of their work. we were supporting them. Of course, it was not that easy, but then you have learning as a habit. It's not something new for you, it's something you get used to. And balance and consistency, all that kind of stuff, culture, blah, 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 OKRs, everything that you're learning, it should be consistent. You tell about it, then you make some workshop, then you give a task. Yeah, so that's very important.
And of course, there are some more ingredients to our self-organization meal. One is cross-team traveling. We just explained it before. Of course, it would be ideal if you always have fixed teams, cross-functional, they can get used to each other and get better and better, but that's not the reality. So we thought, okay, let's accept it, let's embrace it, and optimize this.
What is interesting for me, I don't know if it's interesting for you, but we also were working hard on no-component team members. So it was not only cross-functional teams that can do that, but as soon as you have some task, you already check, and we sometimes included it into acceptance criteria. Should you involve another person right away? Is it so complicated to handle? And sometimes we even had the workshops as task, okay, quite often. Knowledge shares as tasks, and that way we went beyond these feature teams, and we had almost no bottlenecks. Okay, that is lies. We had a lot of bottlenecks, but not for a long time, and I think that was what was really, really helping us. Yep.
Then business value comes first. That was also something we learned quite quickly, and also had the team learn quite quickly that everyone should think about, okay, is what I'm doing right now, does that make sense? Am I contributing to some business goal? Is that helping the client in the end, or am I just doing a task because it's on the board?
Will a client eat my cake? So how did it go organic? So as we told at the beginning, we set the fire, but the team maintained it. It was not by accident, of course. So first of all, your team is your client. Yes, you have to find the pains of your team, and then you satisfy them. You use the best practices, but not just, okay, Scrum says saying you're doing so. No, you find your team pains.
It's important also not to overwhelm the people. It's better to do smaller iterations, see what works, and having it grow organically instead of changing everything at once.
Although sometimes you want to do that, of course. Detect successful initiatives and make them patterns. Yeah, so as we said with the chapters, yeah, for one people it worked well. Oh, cool, nice. Let's try to repeat it. Yeah, and if it goes as a pattern, it goes really well.
Like mentioned before, the culture is very important. It's very important for the team to feel safe and to trust each other. If that foundation is not in place, I think no framework will work. And by the way, all these learnings we got from things that didn't work before. So definitely not everything was working from the beginning.
Team maturity. As soon as the team and the organization is maturing, you introduce a new innovation, some new techniques, it's gonna work. But if they're not ready, if they fill with bugs on their Jira board and you're telling them about OKRs, of course it's not gonna work. You should first fix the bugs and maybe improve your quality standards.
Yeah, and always pull usually works better than push. Forcing the team to adopt something, to say, okay, we are fine with it, that probably won't work. So your team is your client.
This is a small remark. Change management works. All the stuff about like you learned in Switch and all the models. Before you introduce any changes in your team, small or big, You have to mind, if you, for example, if you do not have the early adopters in your team, you will have to raise them or hire them before you do that. Otherwise, it will be in vain.
Yeah, and stick to your word. If it doesn't work, accept it and kill it. Don't force the guys to do it like you want to just because you can't accept that it was a stupid idea.
Yeah, we had a lot of stupid ideas and time for stupid ideas. Yeah, probably we had to start with it. Yeah. So first of all, not sync changes in the different teams. That was quite a challenge. One team already mastered OKRs, another team didn't get it because they didn't have a context. One team did the knowledge share, and then everything is good when you have quite siloed teams, but as soon as you have this beehive, yes, it starts growing and you are losing control. So we had a lot of problems there. We had to improve the transparency, explain more why this team has digested that and this team didn't. It would have helped a lot. But yeah, we know about it only now.
Yeah, and it was basically a constant flow of things not working. Once you fixed one thing, the next thing was somehow breaking. Some new people were added, some new projects, new products, always the workload. So yeah, definitely a lot of things that didn't work. And one reason for this was also that we had really a lack of face-to-face education opportunities. Because of that remote setup, you didn't have the coffee breaks to discuss stuff. You needed to use the chance to educate or to talk with the people when you met them. Of course, we also scheduled remote sessions, but I would also say, in retrospection, it would have been necessary to communicate it, to discuss it with the people, because usually, even if you have a normal talk, then maybe there's an 80% chance that people get right away what you tell them. If you are remote, if you're just communicating via text, that success rate, decreases significantly, and you need to repeat it again and again until really everyone has even understood what you mean. Not talking about agreeing to you.
Yeah, sometimes in this case I'm imagining 1B with a burger line up on the couch when you're learning something, because it's very difficult to withstand the Zoom meetings or other online meetings for a really long time, and you cannot know how people feel. It's much more difficult to track that. Usually
you can't even say if that person is now wearing pants.
Okay, Alex, don't reveal all our secrets. Travelers and shared team members. After we split up the team, the next retrospectives, first the team was very skeptical about all the changes we suggested, but at the time, we were okay. But the traveler bee, the bee that had to fly all over again from one team to another team, was still always very stressed. Okay, guys, it didn't change for me. For me, it was not clear last week what stand-up I should go to, and this week as well. And you introduce even more changes. I cannot follow them. So the traveler bees needed more attention. And unfortunately, we also realized it too late.
Yeah, and that's also definitely a takeaway. We really had a lot of topics, a lot of ideas, how we can help the team, how we can help the organization, what we could do. So we introduced OKRs, we introduced this new, or developed this new organizational framework. We optimized the sprints and so on. And on top of that came all the daily work. So at one point, many people, many developers just were so confused, so overwhelmed with all the additional input, and they didn't have the chance to digest it.
Yeah, and what is even more frustrating is when you introduce the OKRs, you explain it to your sales, to the marketing, but then you have 5 times more salespeople. Yeah, and first it was only 1 sale, so 5 times more, it's like 5 sales already. And they didn't digest it, and you didn't have the opportunity to coach them as well. But your team is already mature enough. Yeah, so this lack of consistency was extremely, it was making our lives really hard. Started too many initiatives at once, yes, and you see this bee just carrying its head. Oh, it was so too much. Yeah, but fortunately, they all survived till that time, and now they are driving the changes, and we do not have such a problem with coaching a big amount of team members because our team members are coaching themselves. That is cool.
Yeah,
right?
and my biggest takeaway is definitely keep it simple. Don't start too much at once. Rather focus on a few approaches, a simple framework, and do that properly. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. You're perfect listeners. Woohoo! And we have questions. Do we have time for questions? Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I actually have 3 questions. So the first one, do I correctly understand that you introduced the changes in the processes, in the way of working in different teams, not simultaneously, but in one team and then another one learned from that? And how did you manage the difference of the way of working? I mean, didn't that affect the team interaction?
Of course it did. That's why it's among the fuck-ups there.
Okay.
It was very difficult, but we didn't have quite a choice. So we had a new product started, and these teams that had to overwhelm this product, they had to change first. Yes, and that's why we introduced the changes there. They split up, they moved on, and there was a team that mostly didn't change for a really long time. They didn't need the chapters. Yeah, we started the chapters, for example, for them as well, but then we realized, okay, they do not have such a need yet, you know? So we also had to reflect it and to realize it. And in terms of the solution, so if we started it again, when we started again, I think that transparency would help to fix that. Yeah, so we explained why this team is still doing it this way, and this team is already having a chapter. Yeah, so that they do not feel misaligned, and so that they also understand what's going on in another team.
So the transparency is the answer. Okay. The next question, you said you had adaptation period for 3 months. Did you have a trial period, and did you have such cases then you had to fire people because of the low performance or because of anything else? How did you do that?
Yeah, so as in Germany, you usually have 6 months of a trial period. We also did the same then for the Ukrainian employees. And yeah, I think we had one case where we actually had to fire someone. And I think that's also, I think it's often managers are too reluctant to fire people. I think it's a very awkward thing to do, but it's very important if someone is really not fitting the team, if you were wrong when you hired him, and if such a person, no matter if he is just an, I don't know, has a bad character or is lazy or so, if you keep such a person in the team because you as a manager don't want to do this awkward step, the other people in the team, they just feel, they feel stupid because they are giving their best, they're working over hours and so on, but obviously you don't need to do that.
One small moment, adaptation plan helps. Yes, it helps to align the expectations. You show to the whole team and to this person what are the expectancies and expectations. And then you just have the criteria and it's not so personal anymore. So actually, I think very rarely do we make mistakes with the really wrong people, but sometimes it's not fit. You need to have some criteria there. You need to explain your CEO why this person underperforms. That it's not your fault that you didn't onboard them well, for example, yes, because sometimes they underperform because of the bad onboarding, most probably, very often. Did we answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, guys, it was the last question actually, because we have a limited amount of time. But you can speak to our beautiful speakers in the corridor. Yes, with the coffee, and it will be a bit warmer there, I think. Yeah, warmer atmosphere. So, yeah, have a huge applause. Yeah, let's welcome our speakers. Well, it was nice.
You're awesome listeners.
Yeah, and we have few gifts for speakers from Simplicity. Yeah, from our organizers. And I remember one time I was in Germany, in Berlin, held in retrospective, and then after that CEO came to me, okay, is there a toxic person there? Toxic person. I said, I don't know still, I need to, look for them. So we need to fire immediately, fire them immediately. So he was with a trauma already, held in toxic person for a year and a half or something. And he was like, fire them, I don't want them. So it was fun, really. Thank you guys, thank you.
Toxicity in Berlin.
Toxicity in Berlin, yes.